Yeah,
Okay.
I saw that. So let's pick up the conversation.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I think what I was about to ask is you already covered it with the app that I've already forgotten the name of. But I was going to say
Flipboard. Yeah.
Flipboard. That's it. How would one? How does one think like a futurist?
Okay. So there's many different ways that futurists use to think about the future. But to get started with, you'd have to look over the horizon, do an environmental scan. And when I was growing up as a futurist, I had futurists telling me, you need to look in different areas and what's happening, not just in your own area of specialty. So go into a newsagent, go to the magazines, and just randomly choose one and make it really random, like choose the bottom left one at the back on the back aisle or something like that. And so, for instance, you might pick up Cat Fancy magazine. Yes, there used to be a magazine
Yeah.
called
Oh,
Cat Fancy. Yes, and read through it. Like read through it with they call naive eyes, like it's brand new to you, and it would be if it's a new industry, of course. But start asking yourself the question: what's happening with pets? What's happening with cats? And what's happening with people? And how important? And so, right now, for instance, cats and dogs very important to people, more important now than ever before. And if you think about that, why is that? And you start connecting the dots. And so you start connecting the dots. Why are they so important? Why do people treat them like children? And for many reasons. But probably one of the biggest is these days is for cats and dogs. Many of them are in what we call single person households. And here in Australia, single person households is approaching 25%. So 25% of people living alone.
And how many was
And
that beforehand?
almost
Sorry.
almost 25%. It's 24%. And the people living alone in their households. And so they want companionship. And if they don't have human companionship, they, get what I call ugly dogs. Ugly dogs, lots of ugly dogs. The pug started the trend, and so they
Yeah.
call them pugly dogs, and cats, of course, and then that's related to what's happening right now. A lot of lonely people, and it's not because of technology that's driven us apart. It's we live in a pretty affluent society, and a lot of people live alone, not by choice. They're left alone, unfortunately. They lose their family, through people getting old,
Mm.
and then they end up staying in a house by themselves. And increasingly, the government here in Australia is trying to keep people in their home because they want to stay in their home because they get sicker when they're in aged care or going to hospital. And so we're doing a lot of medical treatments at home now for older people. And a lot of these older people are living by themselves. And also there's younger people living by themselves.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so that you just start looking around at different things instead of looking at the same thing all the time. And what I say is stop looking at the news. They are in a business where they just want clicks. They just want ratings. They just want to sell advertising. And so what do? They publish the terrible news. And when there isn't terrible news in your town, they'll say, terrible news. A terrible thing happened in this Uber all the way in India,
Mm.
right? And so they're just looking for the worst stories all around the world. And you can tell when it's a slow news day because they're not telling you what's happening in your backyard. They're telling you what's happening on the other side of
Yeah.
the
Something
planet.
random.
And so instead, like Flipboard, you can follow a topic. So it will ask you when you download the app, what's your passion? So put in future. Put in future
Yeah.
as your
Okay.
passion, and it will automatically go and find articles for you that are about the future. And just flip through it when you're having your morning coffee or tea or whatever you like, glass of water, and just flip through it for 20 minutes. And this will be like you went to the news agent, you picked up a magazine, started reading it from a different area you don't know anything about. And so that's the environmental scan. What's happening? What's happening out there, right? Do
And
the
then
environmental scan. And then you
reason something
start,
cut out again.
Yeah. So that's
I thought I cut out for a second. Sorry.
That's right. That's the environmental scan that you're doing. You're looking at different areas and what's going on. And the more and more you read, the more and more you'll start connecting the dots. And when you start connecting the dots, you can use models like scenario planning. You can say, well, if this is happening and this is happening, so for instance, pet ownership is going up. It's not going down. More people are living alone. It's not going down. What does that mean in the future? What does that mean in the future? And so you can have a scenario. In the future, there'll be two types of family. There'll be human families and there'll be human and pet families.
Yeah.
Right?
Definitely.
And you can see it. All these dog-friendly cafes that are popping up. I don't know if you've seen it, but they're all over the place now.
Oh, not in my area yet, but
really
I'm far away from the city. So,
well, I bet it happens more in the country areas than it does in the city areas.
Yeah, bring a horse in.
bring a horse in. Well, not yet, but who knows?
Definitely. So, Flipboard. What about besides magazines? I'm not sure how many people are grabbing magazines and Flipboard. Where else could people be looking?
Well, there's a great resource, a university, one of the world's newest universities is called Singularity University. And Singularity University started by 6 of my Futurist friends. And they deliver corporate programs, they deliver education for graduate students, or for people just interested in helping the world be a better place. And their charter is to use these exponential technologies that are driving the world forward to solve some of the world's biggest problems. Basically, they're asking people to come along and share ideas of how they would help 1 billion people, which I think is a great motivation and a lot of great purpose, and motivates a lot of people. And they have a website, Singularity Hub, HUB, and they publish all of their talks for free. They publish reviews of Futurist books for free. They've got a lot of content there. You could add that to your Flipboard feed as well, so you can add the Singularity Hub.
Singularity, yeah.
Yeah, Singularity Hub. Because Ray Kurzweil, who's the number 2 person at Google. So there's Larry and there's Sergey, and the number 2 person, head of engineering overall, is Ray Kurzweil. Kurzweil is the champion, not the inventor of the idea, but the main champion of the singularity that says that technology is going to get as smart as us, or smarter than us, by 2040, 2050, about then, and that we will merge with technology. And that's what they call the singularity. And he